speech in Act 2, Scene 3. This is right after Iago has provoked the huge fight. Cassio has wounded Montano, and everything is in chaos. Othello has to emerge from bed. He's been with Desdemona. It's their wedding night, and he has to get things under control. Now, if you say that much, you've already identified the context of this speech. The next step is to say, well, what's he doing? Okay, fine. Well, he's restoring order. How does he do that? Well, the first thing that he does is he asks a rhetorical question. He says, are we turned Turks, and to ourselves do that which heaven hath forbid the Ottomites? What is that sentence about? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later at the next level, but currently he's asking people to examine themselves. And he continues it, saying, for Christian shame, put by this barbarous brawl. Again, appealing to people's better nature. He threatens everybody. He says, if you move, he that stirs next to carve for his own rage holds his soul light. He dies upon this motion, and because Othello is a very powerful general, that threat holds a lot of weight. Then he tells people to silence the bell because it is frightening people, and then he tries to get to the bottom of what's happened. What is the matter, masters? Finally, he puts his trust in Iago, as always, saying, honest Iago, that motif, honest Iago, that looks dead with grieving, speak, who began this? On thy love I charge thee. Obviously, honest Iago is not honest. Also, he may look dead with grieving, but in fact, Iago must be very happy because everything has happened exactly as he planned it to happen. Finally, he says, on thy love I charge thee, since Iago doesn't have any love for the Moor. In fact, he says, I hate the Moor. This is a pretty empty question. Of course, Othello is ignorant to this fact. Now, moving up a level, it's really important to look at this in terms of cultural context. So Othello needs to establish himself as a leader of Venetians, and he has to establish a sense of unity, even though he is considered an outsider. So when he says, are we turned Turks, he is challenging everybody to unite as Venetians. And since the Turks were Muslim, and he, as a Moor, is probably suspected of not being Christian, of being Muslim, of being different from other people, his emphasis on the fact that we are not like them is really important. So, notice also that he says that heaven is on the Venetian side. Heaven hath forbid the Ottomites from what? Well, if we remember, there was an enormous storm that stopped the Turkish fleet, that caused the war to end before it even began. And then he says, he appeals to their Christianity, to their faith. He says, for Christian shame, put by this barbarous brawl. And the alliteration here, barbarous brawl, is significant, but also the mere idea that he uses the word barbarous, because again, as a Moor, he's somebody that's perceived as being uncivilized. Brabantio, in fact, accused him of being a barbarian and of being unchristian, of using witchcraft to woo his daughter Desdemona. So Othello is a character that has to appeal to a sense of unity in this situation. He always has to defend the unstated perception that he is a Moor, that he is different, that he is a barbarian. And to work this out, what he does is he appeals to people's Christianity and to their sense of being somehow superior to the other people that they're fighting. The other thing that this does, that this passage does, is it continues this pattern of Othello being entirely too trusting of Iago, who, of course, is completely out to get him. The final thing that's worth noting is in Act 1, in the Senate scene, Othello tells everybody not to worry, that he is not going to be distracted just because he's bringing his new bride with him. This is a challenge. This particular scene happens as Desdemona and he have retired for their wedding night. The fact that he is brought out of bed to resolve this quarrel and to get things under control again shows that Othello is being challenged to use his authority in public where he should be enjoying his private family time. That's all for this passage. Thanks.